I've said this before and I'll say it again. The avoidant will always come back after the relationship ends. And most of the time, if you genuinely love them, you should take them back with open arms and no hate in your heart. But there are times when the avoidance behavior will cross boundaries that should have never been crossed. While avoidant attachment patterns can evolve and heal within the right relationship context, certain behaviors reveal fundamental character flaws that transcend attachment styles and indicate someone who should never be given another chance. These red flags signal that the person lacks the basic empathy, integrity, and respect necessary for healthy relationships, regardless of their attachment wounds or psychological explanations. Understanding the difference between avoidant behavior stemming from trauma and fear versus behavior stemming from selfishness and manipulation becomes crucial when evaluating whether someone deserves another opportunity. Genuine avoidant patterns, while challenging, can be worked with when the person demonstrates authentic remorse, accountability, and willingness to change. But certain behaviors cross lines that no amount of attachment healing can excuse, revealing character defects that make healthy relationship impossible. Number 1, they went on dates or explored other options during no contact. If an avoidant went on dates with other people or actively explored their romantic options during the separation period, they should never be trusted with your heart again. Maybe they slept with someone else. Maybe it was just a kiss. Or perhaps they only went on a single date. Whatever it is, if they get romantically involved with another person during the time of no contact, it's a huge no. Now you will hear other experts be more understanding in this situation. They will suggest you to be more forgiving and excuse the avoidance behavior. But I am not going to tell you that. If they had physical or romantic contact with someone else during the no contact phase, you should delete them from your life. It doesn't matter if it was a simple no contact or a serious breakup. If they were involved with someone else during that time, and 6 months or 3 years later, they come back wanting to be in a relationship with you, don't take them back. Now, this advice is not set in stone. It is up to you to decide what you will tolerate and what you will not. Ask yourself, can you really accept the avoidant with open arms and build a healthy relationship when you know all the things they did with someone else while you were gone? Can you accept that and forgive them for it? If the answer is not a confident yes, then don't take them back. It will only stress you out the entire relationship, and you will soon start resenting them despite your love for them. This behavior reveals a fundamental lack of respect for the connection you shared and demonstrates that they view relationships as easily replaceable commodities rather than meaningful bonds between human beings. Show no mercy to someone who treated your relationship as one option among many. The avoidant who dates others during separation isn't processing their feelings or working through their attachment issues. They're shopping for alternatives while keeping you as a backup option. This behavior indicates someone who approaches relationships from a position of scarcity and fear, rather than abundance and genuine connection. They're hedging their bets rather than doing the internal work necessary for relationship growth. When an avoidant genuinely misses someone and recognizes the value of what they lost, they don't immediately seek replacement connections. They sit with their feelings, process their fears, and work through their attachment wounds. The avoidant who jumps into dating other people during separation is avoiding their emotional reality rather than confronting it, which means they're incapable of the growth necessary for relationship success. This dating behavior during separation also reveals the avoidant's inability to hold space for the complexity of their feelings. Instead of sitting with the discomfort of missing someone while simultaneously fearing intimacy, they distract themselves with new romantic possibilities. This avoidance of emotional processing ensures they'll repeat the same patterns in any future relationship, including a potential reunion with you. The avoidant who dates others during separation demonstrates that they never truly valued the unique connection you shared. They're treating love as a generic experience that can be found with anyone, rather than recognizing the irreplaceable nature of genuine intimacy. This perspective makes them incapable of the depth and commitment necessary for lasting relationship success. Moreover, this behavior shows a complete lack of consideration for your feelings and well-being during an already difficult time. The avoidant who truly cares about someone they've hurt doesn't compound that hurt by publicly pursuing other romantic options. Their willingness to add insult to injury reveals a level of selfishness that disqualifies them from serious relationship consideration. The excuse that they were just exploring their options or trying to move on doesn't justify this behavior. Healthy people who end relationships because they're genuinely not ready for commitment don't immediately seek similar commitment with others. The avoidant who dates during separation reveals that their issue wasn't with commitment itself, but with committing to you specifically, which is information you should take seriously. Number 2, they invalidate your feelings about their behavior. An avoidant who returns but dismisses your emotional responses to their behavior as overreactions lacks the fundamental empathy necessary for healthy relationships. When someone says you're being too sensitive, dramatic, or unreasonable about the hurt their actions caused, they're revealing their inability to take responsibility for the impact of their choices on others. This invalidation is a form of emotional abuse that should immediately disqualify them from reconciliation. The person with genuine empathy understands that impact matters more than intent. Even if they didn't mean to cause harm, they recognize that harm was caused and respond with appropriate concern and accountability. The avoidant who minimizes your emotional responses is protecting their ego at the expense of your emotional reality, which creates a dynamic where your feelings will never be respected or valued. Invalidation of emotions serves multiple functions for the narcissistic avoidant. It allows them to avoid taking full responsibility for their behavior by suggesting that the problem lies with your reaction rather than their actions. It maintains their sense of superiority by positioning them as the rational one and you as the emotional one. It prevents them from having to do the difficult work of genuine accountability and change. When an avoidant returns and immediately begins minimizing your hurt feelings, they're establishing a precedent where your emotional responses will always be subject to their approval and validation. They're setting up a dynamic where you'll constantly question your own reactions and defer to their judgment about what constitutes reasonable emotional responses. This is a form of gaslighting that destroys self-trust and emotional integrity. The avoidant who lacks empathy for the pain their behavior caused will lack empathy for future pain as well. They're showing you exactly how they'll respond to your emotional needs throughout the relationship, with dismissal, minimization, and blame shifting. This pattern doesn't improve with time. It becomes more entrenched as they learn they can avoid accountability through invalidation. Healthy partners validate emotions even when they don't fully understand them. They recognize that feelings don't have to be rational to be real and deserving of respect. The avoidant, who can't or won't validate your emotional responses to their behavior, is telling you that your inner world doesn't matter to them, which makes genuine intimacy impossible. The excuse that they're just being logical or trying to help you see things clearly doesn't justify emotional invalidation. Healthy communication involves acknowledging feelings first and then exploring perspectives, not dismissing emotions as invalid starting points for conversation. The avoidant who leads with invalidation is more interested in being right than being connected. Number 3, they return without accountability for their past actions. An avoidant who attempts reconciliation through sweet words and romantic gestures while refusing to directly address their previous behavior should never be trusted again. Genuine accountability requires specific acknowledgement of harmful actions, understanding of their impact, and concrete plans for behavioral change. The avoidant who offers only vague apologies and future promises is attempting to manipulate their way back into your life without doing the work necessary for real change. True accountability sounds specific and detailed. It includes statements like, "I recognize that when I disappeared for 3 weeks without explanation, it caused you to feel abandoned and uncertain about your worth. I understand that my behavior was selfish and hurtful, and I take full responsibility for the anxiety and pain it caused you." This level of specificity demonstrates genuine understanding of the impact of their actions. The avoidant who returns with only generic apologies like, "I'm sorry if I hurt you," or "I know I wasn't perfect," is revealing their unwillingness to fully confront the reality of their behavior. These non-apologies allow them to maintain plausible deniability about the severity of their actions while appearing to take responsibility. They want the benefits of accountability without the discomfort of actually being accountable. Accountability also requires the avoidant to explain what internal work they've done to address the underlying issues that drove their harmful behavior. They should be able to articulate specific insights they've gained about their attachment patterns, the therapeutic work they've undertaken, or the personal development strategies they're implementing. Without this internal work, their return is just an empty gesture motivated by convenience rather than growth. The avoidant who refuses to address their past actions directly is essentially asking you to pretend the harmful behavior never happened. They want to start fresh without dealing with the consequences of their choices, which creates a dynamic where they learn that they can escape accountability through time and charm. This sets a dangerous precedent for future behavior. Genuine accountability includes making amends for specific harm caused. This might involve rebuilding trust through consistent behavior, attending therapy together, or taking concrete actions to repair damage done to your sense of security and self-worth. The avoidant who thinks words alone are sufficient for reconciliation doesn't understand the depth of work required for relationship repair. The excuse that they want to focus on the future rather than dwelling on the past is a manipulation tactic designed to avoid accountability. Healthy relationships require processing and healing from past wounds before building new foundations. The avoidant who wants to skip this step is more interested in their own comfort than your healing and the relationship's integrity. Number 4, they continue playing the victim in every situation. An avoidant who consistently positions themselves as the victim in every conflict or difficult situation lacks the emotional maturity necessary for healthy relationships. This victim mentality prevents them from taking genuine responsibility for their role in problems and creates a dynamic where they're never accountable for relationship difficulties. The person who always finds ways to make themselves the injured party in every scenario should never be trusted with your emotional investment. The victim playing avoidant has perfected the art of flipping every conversation about their behavior into a discussion about how they've been wronged. When confronted about their emotional unavailability, they focus on how much pressure they felt. When questioned about their inconsistency, they emphasize how misunderstood they are. When asked about their commitment issues, they highlight how past partners have hurt them. This deflection prevents any real accountability or growth. This victim mentality serves as a comprehensive defense system that protects the avoidant from ever having to examine their own contributions to relationship problems. By positioning themselves as the injured party, they avoid the discomfort of genuine self-reflection and change. They maintain their sense of moral superiority while ensuring that all relationship problems become someone else's fault. The avoidant who plays victim also uses this strategy to manipulate their partner's empathy and compassion. They know that caring people will respond to perceived suffering with patience and understanding, so they weaponize their supposed victimhood to avoid consequences for their behavior. This emotional manipulation creates trauma bonds rather than healthy attachment. This pattern reveals someone who fundamentally believes they shouldn't have to take responsibility for the impact of their choices on others. They view themselves as perpetually misunderstood and unfairly treated, which prevents them from developing the empathy and accountability necessary for intimate relationships. They're more invested in being right than being connected. The victim playing avoidant also tends to have an extensive catalog of stories about how previous partners, family members, friends, and colleagues have wronged them. They rarely, if ever, acknowledge their own role in interpersonal conflicts, which should serve as a red flag about their capacity for self-awareness and growth. People who are always the victim in their stories are usually the common denominator in their problems. This mentality becomes particularly toxic during attempts at reconciliation, because the avoidant frames their return as an act of generosity or forgiveness rather than an acknowledgement of their mistakes. They position themselves as magnanimously overlooking your flaws and giving you another chance, rather than recognizing that they're the ones who need to earn back trust and respect. Number 5, they humiliated you. If an avoidant humiliated you publicly or privately during the relationship or breakup, they should never be welcomed back into your life under any circumstances. Humiliation represents a level of cruelty and disrespect that transcends attachment issues and reveals fundamental character defects that make healthy relationships impossible. The person who deliberately attacks your dignity and self-worth has crossed a line that should never be forgiven or forgotten. Humiliation differs from regular conflict or even harsh words spoken in anger. It involves deliberate attempts to diminish your worth, embarrass you in front of others, or attack your deepest insecurities with the specific intent to cause maximum psychological damage. This behavior reveals someone who not only lacks empathy, but actively enjoys causing pain to people who trust them. The avoidant who humiliates their partner demonstrates a level of emotional cruelty that indicates serious personality disorders beyond simple attachment trauma. Healthy people, even those with significant emotional wounds, don't deliberately set out to destroy their partner's sense of self-worth. The capacity for humiliation reveals sadistic tendencies that don't improve with time or therapy. Public humiliation, such as embarrassing you in front of friends, family, or colleagues, shows particular callousness because it involves using others as witnesses to your degradation. The avoidant who chooses to attack your dignity in public settings is demonstrating their willingness to permanently damage your reputation and social connections for their own emotional satisfaction. Private humiliation, such as attacking your physical appearance, sexual performance, intelligence, or other intimate vulnerabilities, shows that the avoidant weaponizes the trust and intimacy you've shared against you. They use your openness and vulnerability as ammunition for psychological warfare, which makes any future intimacy unsafe and inadvisable. The avoidant who humiliates you during the breakup process reveals their true character when they believe they no longer need to maintain their mask of decency. The way someone treats you when they think they'll never see you again shows you exactly who they are beneath their charming exterior. This behavior predicts how they'll treat you during future conflicts when their control is threatened. Humiliation creates lasting psychological damage that affects self-esteem, trust, and future relationship capacity. The person who deliberately inflicts this kind of harm doesn't deserve the opportunity to cause further damage. They've shown they're willing to destroy your emotional well-being for their own satisfaction, which disqualifies them from any future access to your vulnerability. The excuse that they were just angry or didn't mean it that way doesn't justify humiliation. Healthy people don't respond to emotional pain by deliberately trying to destroy their partner's sense of worth. The capacity for such cruelty indicates fundamental empathy deficits that don't resolve through simple relationship repair attempts. The bottom line: These 5 behaviors represent absolute deal breakers that transcend attachment styles and indicate character defects that make healthy relationships impossible. While genuine avoidant attachment patterns can be worked with and healed, these behaviors reveal selfishness, manipulation, cruelty, and lack of empathy that will destroy any relationship regardless of attachment healing. The person who exhibits any of these behaviors doesn't deserve a second chance because they've demonstrated their fundamental unsuitability for intimate relationships. Taking them back teaches them that they can engage in destructive behavior without serious consequences, which encourages repetition of these patterns. You deserve a partner who treats you with basic respect, empathy, and consideration, even during difficult times. Don't sacrifice your standards or compromise your worth for someone who has proven themselves incapable of meeting the minimum requirements for healthy relationships. Show no mercy to those who have shown no mercy to your heart.